Welcome to the Wing Podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Rachel.
And we have Chad here with us today.
Hello.
Hey, Chad. Thanks for joining in.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Do you want to, should we introduce Chad, or do you want Chad to introduce Chad?
Go for it.
All right. Chad has 15 years of experience as a business banker helping small and medium-sized businesses in Northeast Wisconsin. He was born in the area, so he's from Little Chute originally and attended Carroll University for his undergrad and has an MBA from Marquette University. So I was talking to Chad a little bit before the show started about his family. So Chad, you want to take that up where I left off?
Yeah, sure. So my wife and I, we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old girls, Nora and Ellie, and we have a 12-year-old, mostly blind Shih Tzu. So he bumps into walls and couches and little kids' toys a lot. So yeah, he keeps it interesting. But yeah, very very busy family. Obviously, the little kids keep us very busy right now. So
that's good. That's good. Chris and I are both parents, so we understand that like 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, she was the terrible 2s, and now she's the terrible 3s, and she's getting better, but she's definitely got her moments where she wants the attention on her.
Yeah, for sure. So
wait till 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
My son's 4.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Once they're 4, they have opinions. It's different.
It's like they jump from 3 to 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure your kids won't do that. They'll be perfect.
No, definitely not.
No. Cool. All right. Let's see. Should we jump into some questions for you then? Or actually, hold on. Now, you were telling us before too, you just switched jobs. Can you let everyone else know what you're doing now?
Sure. So I've worked for 15 years in business banking. So I work with small businesses and medium-sized businesses and some nonprofits. A week ago, I joined Unison Credit Union, which is headquartered out of Kaukauna. So yeah, I've joined them as their chief lending officer, which is a relatively new position for them. I'm in charge of leading their business lending team, as well as doing some of their personal residential lending as well. So oversee mostly the lending with the organization.
That's good, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited to be working for a locally locally headquartered company. Obviously, we're member owned as a credit union, so we definitely want to help people out and help them get whatever their dreams are. We want to help lead them down that path.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, working with local companies is definitely a huge change from corporate. You're like, if I have a question, I can just walk in the next office and ask the guy.
Yep.
That's awesome. Cool.
All right, to jump into the questions here, Chad, we've got first question here for you. When it comes to finances, what one thing could help an entrepreneur, a person, or a small business?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the biggest thing is you really want to try to pay yourself first. So, as you're getting your income, if it's a stable income or if it's an income that fluctuates, some way you want to find a way to really move some money either to a retirement account or into a separate savings account that's different than your main checking account. Just try to get yourself a piece of money that every month or every week or whatever that every quarter that you can put some money aside and really protect it and start it to grow into the future. It's going to make it a lot easier to build that big nest egg if you're making small steps, monthly, weekly, whatever you can afford.
That's awesome. Is there a magic number to set aside, or is it just like whatever works for your budget?
Yeah, I mean, again, depending on your income, I try to say, if you can do 10%, so take your net, but before the taxes, look at what that number might be on an annual basis, and then try to figure out how can I get to 10% of that number? How can I put that money aside? Hopefully it's maybe in a retirement or 401k, or again, if it's some other type of investment or just a savings account, just try to get that money, put it aside and try to forget about it and hopefully let that compound and be separate from your day-to-day expenses.
It's kind of similar to our first episode here with Jason Spencer and Profit First, where you pull your profit first. So
Yeah, I like that.
But this time it's essentially more personal from your personal income.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's great. I feel like I needed to learn that when I was a high schooler. Seeing all that cash come in, $100.
So
I'm
exactly.
rich.
It's hard. You've got bills. You've obviously got you've got debt and things like that that's out there. But sometimes it's best to just kind of take that, set it aside, and then try to live on that 90% piece.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So like, how would you explain what finances are to somebody for the first time or someone who's just jumping in the podcast right now?
Yeah, I think you want to just talk about how can I get to a position where my income exceeds my expenses. So again, not everybody has a steady type of an income. Some people have incomes that are coming from different places, but when all the dust settles at the end of the month or end of the year, you want to just get to a point where you've got more income than what you're spending. And again, once you've got that extra income or that extra little bit, if you can get that money put aside, that's the best thing to do for anybody to plan for the future and make sure you have that emergency fund set up.
That's great. That's great.
And sometimes again, it requires taking a really hard look at, what are my needs and what are my wants? And, maybe I'm outliving my current income and I got to pull back, whether pull back on my housing or pull back on my entertainment expenses or pull back on something else to make sure that you've got that extra income in your account.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Like we don't really need cable.
Well, we cut the cord, and now it seems like cutting the cord is more expensive than having cable. So it's I think what we described to Amazon and and Netflix and HBO and DirecTV. I mean, yeah, it's again you have to pick and choose, and there's only so many hours in the day. So figure out again what's going to help you bring that entertainment, and then how can you cut the expenses that are a little bit excess on yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, so my husband and I got married in 2008, and we really saw that like when basically everything collapsed. I mean, there's so many houses that went into foreclosure, but setting up yourself now so that if 2008 happens again, the situation, not the year, obviously, but setting yourself up now so that like, okay, if there's a complete financial collapse again, am I okay? In my house, can I still afford it?
Yeah, we're in the situation now where we're starting. We've heard it probably for the last 6 to 9 months where homes are actually going over asking price just because people are so desperate for that starter home or desperate to live in a certain area. So again, you have to watch that as well. And obviously people need more space when they need more space. But if you can kind of stay at a smaller space for a little bit and make things work, and not overpay, that's always a good thing too.
That's so true. Yeah. I mean, there's houses in our neighborhood right now that are going for, 20% more than what they probably should. It's made me want to sell.
Yeah, luckily, interest rates are pretty good. But yeah, like you said, on the other side, what you're paying for those houses is probably higher than what it is. And even I've heard building costs are getting up there as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. We were looking into building like a vacation home, and it started at $230 a square foot. I was just trying to justify that in my head. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly right.
Not yet. So
small 1,000 square foot house is 230,000 already.
Right. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, we'll just build a tiny home because that will save lots of money. And then I was like, it's going to cost me $230,000 for a tiny home. Nope, that's a bad idea.
All right, jumping into the next question here. We've been talking a lot about the finances for business and personal. You did touch a lot on personal so far, with just touching on the surface with some investments and stuff. Looks like with your history in banking, 15 years, I'm sure you got some good advice for different investments, options that banks can offer for you, and even for business too, because a lot of businesses nowadays blur the line between business and personal. Like solo entrepreneurs can pull a retail account from a bank or a credit union. Essentially, it's a personal account, and then they have the amenities that anybody who opens up a personal account can have too. So, I'd say lately you blur that line. So either way, business or personal, what advice would you have?
Yeah, I mean, I'd still talk a little bit about, making sure that you're separating business and personal. Even if you've got kind of this side hustle or this, this side job that you're working, you really want to make sure, that it's either break even. You can lose a little bit of money on that, but it's certainly better if it's a break even or it's making you a little bit of money. And sometimes that's the case too, where maybe you're overspending on the expenses and it's not quite meeting where you can generate the income on. So I think we're going to get into this world where there's single person $1 million businesses, and that's what people can run. They don't necessarily need a team of 10, 15 people. They can use contractors for certain things. And with Shopify and Etsy, I mean, if you've got a talent or you've got a hobby that you're spending, that you're just better than the 90% of the population. If you can go out there and sell your product and get a free web store or something like that, I think there's ways that you can make money. And then there is that magical time when all of a sudden, this could be a full-time job for you if that's what you want to do. So I do think you want to separate and make sure you keep some kind of profit and loss on your side hobby. If you at least, like I said, yeah, it's good to just do it if that's kind of your escape. But also at the end of the day, if you can break even or at least make a little bit of money on it, that's great too. Going into small business owners, I mean, this is a good time if you've got some steady cash flow or you've got some good trends for your business. Try to set up a business line of credit so that you are, ready, in the event that one of your customers, pays late, or you need to, buy some additional inventory or things like that. So definitely try to set up that business line of credit if you can, based on your business financial statements. Or personally, I mean, if you've got equity in your home, try to set up a home equity line and at least have access to that to protect yourself or help you make an acquisition or investment in something if something comes along for you. Some of the other stuff on the personal side, we talked about again that 10%. Once you've got that 10% saved and kind of put off to the side, hopefully, like I said, it's in a 401k. If you get a match from your employer, make sure you're putting in enough to get that match. You don't want to leave free money on the table if your employer is going to offer that. Beyond that, build your emergency fund. If you've got that emergency fund set up, and then look to do a Roth IRA. They offer some great incentives and allows you to defer. You pay the taxes today, but you're going to pull it out tax free. After once you get to retirement age. So that's a couple other things on the personal side and the business side that you can do to help set yourself up and depending whether or not we're going to continue to have a good economy or a bad economy, at least set yourself up and helps protect yourself, or at least allows you to make a opportune investment if you want to.
That's great. I love that advice. And so I like how you said that don't be afraid to use the equity that you have built up in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's okay to borrow from yourself.
Yeah.
It's probably better than putting it on a credit card. So,
yeah.
Can you touch a little bit more on like starting into using dabbling into stocks and stuff, individual
Sure.
stocks? Like, how would somebody start to do that?
Yeah, I think, again, it starts with making sure you've got kind of money set aside in case your car breaks down or in case your air conditioner goes, your furnace goes. So make sure you've got a little bit of cash on hand. But, once you've got a reasonable amount kind of set aside for any emergencies, then, try to invest in an index fund. There's a lot of good S&P index funds that offer a really low expense ratio. So you're not going to pay a lot of expenses on that money, and you're going to get kind of the full return of the market, the S&P 500. So, start funneling some money into an index fund. Once you get, 10,000, 15,000, then you can almost start dabbling with some individual stocks. If you feel comfortable enough, and if your risk can handle that, then start looking at some individual stocks, but just make sure the money you're putting into the individual stocks is something that you can afford to lose, because nobody knows where things are going to go, and accounting scandals and industries can turn pretty quickly. So yeah.
No kidding. I'm sure you've seen.
One thing I got into was dividend reinvestment, drip investing. So early on, I got into ExxonMobil and Pfizer and some of these Procter & Gamble, some of these bigger blue chip stocks that pay 3 and 4% dividends. You just put a couple grand in and let the dividends just start reinvesting and collecting in that same stock. And it just keeps, like I said, just the snowball starts rolling, and it just keeps kind of adding up as the months tick on.
That's great. Yeah. Putting your money to work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. So since you're a finance guy, I have a feeling you read a lot of I can't talk. Since you're a finance guy, I'm guessing that you read a lot of finance books or listen to podcasts or radio shows. Is there something that you would recommend for us to read or get into?
Yeah, so an oldie but a goodie is David Bach, Automatic Millionaire. That was certainly one of the first books that I read, and he talks about the latte factor. He's actually got a new one coming out called The Latte Factor, and you just talk about how much does that daily coffee cost, and if you instead put that money into a index fund, what would that money look like in 35, 40 years? So I'm not saying to give up the coffee, if you can get inexpensive coffee versus expensive coffee, that might be a good thing to do. But, again, I'm certainly not going to sit here and say that, if that's your pleasure, if that's your thing, go ahead and do it. If you've got, the coffee and the something else, the bagel or the, whatever, then maybe pick one. But, yeah, that's a good book, again, about putting your money, letting it grow, letting it compound over the years. And like you said, let your money work for you. Some other things, Jim Cramer on CNBC. Now, I have to put a caution, don't listen necessarily to his stock tips, but, he throws a lot of names out there, and some of them are momentum stocks that, may or may not be good investments. But he's got some good tips about, how do you learn the foundation of investing, and what to watch for when you're putting money to work and when you're putting in money into stocks. He's got a couple books out there as well that are pretty good reads if you've got the time. And then the last one I'll say is get on Twitter. There's a lot of these, it's called FIRE, which is Financial Independence, Retire Early. So there's a lot of these bloggers that are out there that preach, getting out of the rat race early. Many of them mid-30s, early 40s. They talk about expense reduction and, how to invest. And I think there's a lot of good blogs that you can get on. Like I said, Twitter's a great place to kind of find some good ideas about how to invest and where to invest and how to cut your expenses and things like that. So those are a couple things that have really done me well. But there's any number of resources out there these days. Podcasts as well. I mean, there's a lot of good podcasts too that you can just pop on your commute and pick up a little wisdom on the way to work.
That's awesome. To be honest, I've totally written off Twitter, so I will jump back on board.
There's certainly some noise out there. They've worked harder to get rid of the garbage. So
yeah.
If you follow the right people, I think you can get into a pretty good spot. And again, it'll be worth the 5 or 10 minutes that you're mindlessly popping in on it. You'll find some good stuff here and there, some good nuggets.
That sounds good. So better than having Wendy's roast me. I'll go look for financial information.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
One other one that was really good for me is Mr. Money Mustache. So he's got a blog. He's another one that's retired early, and he's still doing some side hustles, and I think he's doing some investment in real estate stuff. But he's another one. He's one of the first folks that's kind of started this movement, and so he's got a lot of blog posts out there. Definitely a lot of stuff you can search through the archives and get your questions answered, whatever you're looking to get answered.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, blogs I've got time to read, so that sounds good. And now that I know what to search for on Twitter, I'm going to do that too.
Well, I'm looking up a post from the Rising Tide Society because we both belong to the Rising Tide Society group.
Okay.
Actually, the Tuesdays Together local group here in Appleton for creative entrepreneurs and small business owners. They actually did mention Mr. Money Mustache on the thread yesterday morning. And I've never heard of it, to be honest. So
there's another one out there. His name is it's Jason Fiber. It's Fieber, but he was another one. I think his was Mr. Free at 33. But again, a guy who made a blue collar kind of salary wage and was able to just be very diligent on saving his money and putting it into dividend stocks. And yeah, he got out early. Now I think he's become a
33. That's half a life early.
He's overseas now. So, but
He really retired at 33?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Stop.
Yeah. I mean, again, he, like I said, you read his whole story. It's pretty amazing. He started, late, I don't know, mid 20s. I mean, I think he started from zero and was able to, start putting his stuff aside and invested in some dividend blue chip stocks
Okay.
and yeah, that's kind of what he's doing. And he was able to obviously play a little bit of the expense arbitrage. I think he lives overseas right now, but yeah, so he's playing a little bit of the fact that it's less expensive over there. But yeah, he's got some great articles, and he's got a great story about kind of how he did it.
That's awesome. Hey, you got to make it work though. Like my husband and I keep joking, like, if we just saved half as much, we could move to Mexico and retire.
Exactly. Yeah. If it wasn't for insurance, I mean, again, I think, that's the thing, and you can still be on this path and decide to stay working, as long as you find something that you love doing. And, again, it's just a matter of, looking at your expenses and making sure that, you're putting your money aside. And, yeah, you don't want to keep up with the Joneses. You don't always have to have the biggest house and the biggest car and the nicest car. Just do something reasonable within those big expenses. And yeah, you can do okay.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I forget who says it. Maybe it's Dave Ramsey. I don't know. I listen to him a lot, but they always talk about, you're saving up to buy stuff to impress people you don't know.
Right.
Like, why do we do this, or why are we conditioned to do it? So 100% agree with what you're saying. I love it.
Clark Howard is another one out there. I think he's got some good stuff as well. I think he's got a radio program locally.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I think it's on like Saturday or Sundays on public radio.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
NPR.
All right.
The NPR.
I mean, I believe you. I have nothing to compare it to. That's awesome.
I'll look it up and I'll share it on the blog post.
The other thing I'll just tell we'll talk about is just not the old adage is don't time the market. It's time in the market, not timing the market. I mean, you can make a little bit of money on the way up and pull your money out, but where are you going to put it? So you just want to make sure you're always invested and don't try to hit it at the top and try to sell at the bottom. You want to just stay invested. And again, if you've got a little bit extra money, you can be a little bit more risky with that. And as long as you know that, that money could go away. But again, get your base in there. And then from there, take some flyers on some higher risk stocks, higher reward stocks. And like I said, it'll do good for you. I think if you put it away, you do that over a 20, 30, 40 year period, you'll be pretty surprised at what you have, towards the end of the road.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, and I mean, even if stocks do go down a little, you still retain ownership of those stocks. And the market has shown us it always fluctuates. So it's not necessarily a good time to pull your money if you see it going down a little, but obviously if there's a scam going on, that'd be a good time to get out of Dodge.
All the people that, all the people that sold in 2008 are still probably waiting for that perfect time to get back in. And, now they've missed 10 years of gains. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish I would have bought GM when it was at like $2.30 a stock in 2008.
Oh, I've got any number of stories that I was lucky to just, I had Sirius XM stock, which was at $5, went down to 50 cents. And
what?
I was already in it. So I'm like, oh, let's just put a little bit more money into it. So there's a lot of, and that's the thing about these fire people is all of them kind of started around 2008, 2009. So it was kind of easy to be right through that cycle, but
right?
You got nothing to lose.
Stay invested. Stay diligent, take that 10% off the top of your, of your income and, live within your means.
And to point out, a lot of investments are not insured, so they can be risky. So, there's a whole bunch of resources out there. Even Jim Cramer gives good information about certain stocks, whether they are a risky investment or not. But safe harbor for a lot of money is in savings accounts at credit unions and banks because those are insured. So if a bank was to fail, the government, what's the number now? Like 250,000
I think
or
it's
something?
250,000. You can structure it certain ways where you can get a little bit more protection, but 250,000 I think is the individual insured limit.
So yeah, still the bank, your bank or your credit union savings accounts are the safest if you are
Yep.
very conservative.
Yeah.
You can get away.
And now there's this race to the bottom with these brokerages. So, the first thing I know, Fidelity and a lot of other places with Vanguard, all of them have these no load. So there's no expenses to get into some of these, kind of free index funds, ETF funds. So yeah, it's really cheap, and you can put in small amounts of money. I mean, as little as $50, $75. So you don't have to wait till you have $1,000 and put it in there. Yeah, you can get her started.
Oh man, that's actually really good to know because aside from investing for ourselves, I would love to invest for my kids instead of just throwing $50 in a savings account and just letting it sit there for the next 18 years.
Yep.
That'd be a good place to put it.
Oh, exactly.
Cool.
Well, and then there's the new way of investing in Stash Capital, Acorn, Robinhood stocks. Those other ones, you don't pay a fee. You pay a monthly fee, and it's crowdfunded, shall I say? They pay the trade fees from everybody's subscription. I think Stash Capital is $1 a month, literally. So
bad.
You're paying $12 a year, but they have hundreds of thousands of people paying $12 a year. So then they pay the trade fees from there. But yeah, like you said, on TV all the time, I see Charles Schwab, the price every year drops down further and further. I think it's down to $3 and something right now that you can trade at. So you can put in money for as low as $3.
Yep.
That's crazy. Everyone has $3.
I remember the days when it was $14.95 or $19.95 to make a trade, and you're like, I'm gonna put $50 in there, and I'm gonna have to pay another $20 to put $50 in there.
Yeah.
Right now, there's no entry literally no entry to the market.
Exactly.
I mean, there's Stash Capital, Acorn, Robinhood. You can get into those, and they have convenient apps on your phone and all that stuff, and you can trade ETFs. You can trade stocks now too, even. So, and like you said, what was the other ones? Fidelity, TDI is dropping their prices.
Vanguard, Fidelity, they all have kind of their own index funds or ETFs that they set up that, again, you can search the no fee ETFs and you can see a whole list of, there's a technology ETF and there's a S&P ETF and there's any kind of industry you want to get into. It's you pick your poison and again, get in really inexpensively. Mm-hmm.
I see iShares is out there a lot too.
iShares, iShares is a really good one. They've got they've got a high dividend growth one. I think that, pays probably 3% dividends. So in addition to getting some price appreciation, you're also getting, good dividends in your account as well. I did the Robinhood thing, and I'm still kind of just dipping my toe in the water. They the special that I got in at is they gave you a free share of stock. And so, they have this game where they've got kind of these things floating around and you pick one. And they talk about Berkshire, which is $2,000 a share, and Apple, which is $200. Well, I got the $5 Sprint share. So,
yes.
But I still got a free $5 at the end of the day. So,
right. Well, yeah. And all of them give you $5 to start or $10 to start on them. But obviously they're going to make that back in a year. You stay on there for a year, they're going to take their couple bucks out a month and they'll get it back. But it's just the fact that, okay, there's no entry now. Now you're $5 into the stock market. So, I've known people, my uncle and some of his friends have made money in the stock market, stuff like that. So it's legit, but you have to do your research. Definitely do your research.
Yeah, don't listen for these hot stock tips, most of the time. and sometimes it's just, what do you use? And then let's, look at who, what company owns that and, what have they been doing? And, I know we got my nephew and my niece, we got some money for them and put it in Disney. And again, Disney's been around a long time. They pay a nice dividend and it's something, that when they're 15 or, 18 and you start kind of talking to them about investing, you can kind of point to, hey, this is what your stock has done, and this is how much we put in, and this is what it turned into after 15 years.
That's a really good point, though, is to invest in companies that you're already using or that have a longevity and track record.
Right.
And pay attention to the news.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, a story will pop up one day. Mergers, all that stuff.
Right?
Banks merge all the time. I swear.
Yep.
Every week there's a new merger in the finance.
And Caleb knows Chad knows firsthand about that too. So
yeah, definitely. So I used to work for M&I Bank.
Yep.
M&I got acquired by BMO Harris. So I went through that, and then obviously with the Huntington to Associated. So it's there's a lot of companies out there, and there's some consolidation happening in certain industries. So and sometimes it's good for your stock, and sometimes it's not good for your stock. You just gotta do the homework, do the research, and pay a little bit of attention to it.
Yeah, we've been with for the DJ company that I own. We were at FNB or Farmers or something like that. Then it was acquired by
F&M. F&M was acquired by Citizens.
Yeah, Citizen then was acquired by First Merit. And then Huntington swooped in and bought them. So it was like, oh geez. And now I'm over at Associated.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, we all got locked out of our accounts at 3 p.m. on June 14th. And then we were told you can't do anything until Monday. And then I went in, I'm like, oh, everybody's going to be lined up at the door at Associated on Monday wondering what the heck's going on. What can we do? So then I went in Tuesday and they were still swamped over there.
Yikes.
But it's the way it goes. They move so much in the financial markets.
And if you talk about too, some of these challenger financials that are out there, like a Square, or Shopify is kind of coming on the scene for entrepreneurs to be able to do their web stores. I mean, there's a lot of good financial challenger stuff that's out there as well. And if you feel like Square's a good one, they're putting a good platform together. And if you feel like they've got a long runway, again, do some research and maybe buy some shares in it. And that in addition to just being invested in the market, you'll learn a little bit about kind of what the technology is and what's all out there.
That's great advice. I love it. So now, Chad, you're awesome. Let's say someone listening wants to work with you. How do we get in touch with you, or how do we find you?
Let's see. So I'm on LinkedIn. So awesome. You can find me on LinkedIn. Okay. You can stop at any one of Unison Credit Union's branches and try to track me down that way. But I would say the biggest thing is I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. So. Go ahead and Google my name. Hopefully I pop up. And
Well, that's how I found you on LinkedIn. So
yeah. Perfect. And we can put a description to your, like a link to your page in our description of the podcast too. So
that's great.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Chad. I really appreciate your time and all of your expertise.
It's been a good discussion. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Very cool.
I'm sure you're a busy man, so we'll let you get back to work here.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thanks, Chad.
Bye-bye.